All right, let's kick things off just so we're not wasting any time here. Get right into it. First off, thank you so much for joining us for our first ever Framer community show and tell. I'm so happy to have you watching. I started as your community and partnerships manager here at Framer just under a month ago, and I'm already so blown away by the talent and the passion that you all show towards your craft. I'm really happy to be here to help grow and nurture this community as Framer continues to scale. Just a bit of logistics before we get into introductions. Please ask any questions that you have for our presenters in the chat. I'm going to moderate them and put them to our co-hosts once they finish their show and tell presentations. So today I'm joined by Cédric, who's going to be showcasing Framer.money. Madhuri and Arjun are going to be showcasing the new Jack strategy site, and I'll pass it over to them to do some quick introductions. Cédric, do you want to kick us off?
So first of all, thanks a lot for having me. Really excited for this round today. Yeah, maybe some of you know me from Twitter or maybe elsewhere. So yeah, I'm Cédric. I'm a product designer since roughly 12 years right now. Always have worked for the web, but also beyond. I'm also like a huge no-code fan and also using no-code technology. Yeah, probably for over half a decade already. So I'm also really into that. That's also why I landed more or less in this round here, I guess. And yeah, I'm like building projects and tools and assets like Framer templates, where you maybe know me most of, for more than a year already, and doing that pretty successfully. And yeah, maybe passing it over again.
Sweet. Madhuri, do you want to go next?
Yeah, happy to. Hey everyone, I'm Madhuri. You must have seen me online somewhere tweeting like crazy. I'm essentially a product designer, been doing this for a decade now, and I had a lot of fun making this thing, and my sweet spot is prototyping. So it's prototyping to no code. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. So we are here, and I'm excited about exploring the possibilities and stretching them. Yeah, Arjun, we'll go next.
Have we got Arjun? I think he's frozen, has he? 1 second. Let him get back up and running.
I'll just ping him.
Okay, perfect. No worries. Oh, I think he's back. Are you back, Arjun?
Hello. Are you all able to hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you perfect. Would you like to introduce yourself, Arjun? Just let folks know who you are, where you are, why you are here working on Framer. All right, I think Arjun's having a couple of issues.
Hello.
Can you hear us okay, Arjun?
I guess he's having some trouble.
I think there's a bit of a lag on my side.
No worries. Well, we can jump in with Cédric on Framer.money, and then hopefully, Arjun, you can get your internet sorted out. You have a few minutes anyway, so don't worry about it. Cool. Cédric, would you like to take it away on Framer.money?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Let me quickly share my screen. Where is it? All right. Hope you guys can see my screen right now. All right. Seems like cool. Yeah. So probably first little background on how that all actually happened. So as you all know, and also as I said a few minutes ago, I really much focused on building Framer templates for the last 1.5 years, and I put out a bunch of templates already and making quite really good money with it. And so since I started, I think it was this year in February or January. I started just to like experimenting, and yeah, started to posting some of these figures that I'm making just to show and motivate other people to actually do the same. And yeah, props to Yuri. That's actually yeah, thanks to him. And that actually left like a huge wave of yeah, really kind folks actually asking me how I've done it and asking a bunch of questions. And at some point, it just got like too much for me to handle at once. And then I have like had a few thoughts on how maybe I can help more people. And I'm in general a huge fan of courses, so I've made yeah, probably 5 to 10 courses already. So I'm really positive about that. And then yeah, maybe the idea of launching a course that yeah, is more or less bringing people from 0 to 1 when it comes to selling Framer templates. And yeah, this was really a ton of work. And yeah, in the end, I launched Framer.money, I think, yeah, a few weeks ago. So maybe it's not even a month old, so it's quite new. And yeah, first it was just a course. But my plan is not really to actually, yeah, just have the course. So the vision for this is more to help people also maybe who are on a low budget, for example. And that's why I also introduced like free guides. So this is something which is new and came this week. And this is basically like free articles that I'm writing every 2 weeks and sending them as part of my newsletter, which is called Creative Prosperity. And yeah, so this more or less is extending the platform, as you can see right here. So we now got yeah, guides, then got coaching, and of course the course itself. And I think yeah, for today, what I want to focus on is not really like, okay, how to set up a CMS for articles like that, and also not yeah, about coaching, and also not how to set up a landing page. But because the most important and maybe also most interesting fact of this platform is that it's completely built and hosted in Framer. And so this means that it is really more or less a full-blown membership site. So all the content from the course is basically available inside of Framer. So it's hosted in Framer, and it is gated or protected with the login and registration by Outsetter. And I think this is yeah, probably the most interesting thing I could show today. And so that you guys can also maybe have a small glimpse of how to build a membership site. And yeah, what this actually enables us is to have a login and account information and stuff like that. As you can see, this is all, oh, perfect. This is all made in Framer, so I'm probably just switching into Framer as well. So this is a little bit more clear to you guys how it works. Yeah, so as I said, basically, you can think of it like the front end is completely done inside of Framer. Also, this means all the assets and the audio recordings and everything that comes with the course is also made in Framer. And as you can see right here, this is the landing page. And then we also have this, yeah, let's say the course page itself, which is basically all the content. And what I did, I have like for the content of the course, I just have used an overlay, and which has a recording and also soon videos in it. And I think the special part of it, because like protecting a page with Outsetter is not so complicated. So you can just add your URL in Outsetter, and it will actually protect you this specific page of getting seen when someone is logged out. And so the special thing about here is that I also have built in, and this is done with much help of a good friend of mine, that we also added, as you can see here, a bunch of code overrides that actually let the lesson status sync with the account from this specific user. So you can actually also just tick or check each lesson afterwards you're done with it. And yeah, this in the end will actually set its status to finished, and then you'll just have this small yeah, state or changed state available. And yeah, this is probably something that is quite nice, but also, as you can see right here, yeah, needed quite a lot of code. So of course, I will not really now, so I'm not able to actually explain you all of this. But I just want to show you like the possibilities in case you would like to yeah, go further with it. And the other second thing that is also quite interesting and is not so much more difficult. So as you can see on the landing page, I have 3 tiers. So I have like just the course, I have mentoring, and I have a co-pilot, which is basically just yeah, more value you get in the end. And of course, with that, I also have sections inside of this course page here that should not be shown in some tiers. So as an example, the template review is only available for the most expensive tier. That's why I also had to somehow make this locked. And this is a little bit easier. So also I used that maybe a year ago for my let's say my first venture in this Framer universe, which was Godlike. And Godlike is just a component library, and the trick there was really to hide the copy component link to non-members and make it available for members again. And this is also really easy. It's actually only having an HTML attribute and a value in it. And with that, so like the one here and behind is the plan ID in Outsetter. And this one here is just the custom attribute, which is needed to actually hide this whole element here. And yeah, in the end, this is basically all that was needed to build this course. Yeah, which is completely in Framer, as you just saw. And yeah, now also maybe can give you a short glimpse on that as well. As you might also know, I'm a huge fan of productizing my own work or my own projects. And so this will be again done with this course website. So I'm also planning and proceeding already with this CourseOS template, which is yeah, Framer template to build exact the same course structure that I just showed you on Framer.money, except with yeah, the only exception that it will be even a little bit better, because I also learned from my own failures, and also like yeah, I want to just make it have a better experience yeah, for the customers that maybe buy this template. And that's why I, for example, I have yeah, not overlays for the content of each lesson, but really whole pages. And so that's and maybe some of you are also asking now why you did not use the CMS for that, because it would be basically a perfect use case. And so yeah, the reason is quite simple. So first, of course, it would be really easy to just have this basic information and maybe a video and a summary or a rich text in the CMS. But a problem, and there are 2 problems. So first one is that we do not yet have some way to display like modules, and also like a flexible amount of modules in the CMS. So as an example, if I would like to have 5 links here or only 1, this could yeah, get really complicated to build. And the second reason is actually that this button here, which you also have just seen in Framer.money, yeah, does need to have a special name, otherwise the override will not work. So as you can see here, always we have each lesson number that needs to be in this button, otherwise the execution of the code will not work and it will not sync with the Outsetter account. And so those are basically the 2 reasons yeah, why I built those pages as static pages and not as CMS pages. And yeah, if we go back to Framer.money, I think this is more or less it already, I guess. And I'd like to pass over to Kate again in case there are any questions.
Totally. Thank you so much, Cédric. That was amazing. I know we've got Hunter in here in the chat taking notes. So that's a great way to get product feedback for sure. Cédric, I think we had one question from other Cédric. Is the override connected to the user's account? I'm assuming that's Outsetter.
The override. So like how it's working, it's you basically have the big script that I showed in the beginning. In there you have your Outsetter ID, so like the overall account ID. And this is automatically syncing the account data. So in case someone is just joining as a member, it will add actually new properties in this account. And then as soon as you're changing one of those properties, so each lesson status, so I have like 30 lessons, so I have 30 properties. And as soon as this user is clicking complete, it will also complete and change the status in this property on Outsetter. And this is how, this is working more or less. I hope that's, clear for you, Cédric.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Cédric, for I'm curious, as you, I guess, started using Outsetter for Framer.money, were there any issues that you ran into that you didn't foresee to come up, and how did you kind of get around them, or was it pretty much smooth sailing?
There were not really many issues. So the Godlike website, which is already over a year old, is built on MemberSpace. So I used Outsetter the first time for that one here. I must say it just has like more features, so that's even one advantage compared to it. And it also feels way more modern. And their founder is also really open, exactly like the ones from Framer. So enjoying that just a lot. And I did not really had much issues. Probably to create all this code, which was not done by myself. That was maybe a challenge, but as I know, they have really good specifications and guidelines on there. So I mean, if you want to really build some kind of membership site, I'll definitely recommend going with Outsetter. And also, I think there's some collaboration going on in the back. So yeah, stay tuned.
Nice. We have one more question there from Raz Cédric, so feel free to do however many plugs you would like in here. It's could you share with us your other Framer projects or direct us to where we can find out more? I already linked your newsletter. If there's anywhere else people can find you online, feel free to plug away.
I think so. Like my main website or personal website is available on cedric.design. And I got like most of my projects on there. So I have canvas.supply is my template business. Then I got Framer.money, of course. Then there's godlike.so. That's probably a little bit outdated already. But in case you're interested in some Tailwind style components, that maybe is something for you. And that's basically like my main focus for now. There's way more stuff that is also going on and more on the freelance side, but that's not like my my focus for now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cédric. Really appreciate you running through those projects with us and giving us an insight into what it looks like from your end. For those of you as well who might not know, just letting you know that Cédric also worked on the 10x Designer site that went live this week. Be sure to check it out if you want to see another slick Framer website from Cédric.
Thanks a lot.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. Well, we will bring it over now to Madhuri and Arjun. Hopefully his internet is a little bit better. If not, Madhuri, let's figure out the best way to do this here, but I'm going to hand it over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kate. So luckily, Arjun is just sitting in the other corner, so I'll just pull him into the screen.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Glad to hear.
So I will do that. Right. And let me just go ahead and present so that we can get started. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah. Awesome. So we prepared something for all of you so we can be on time and concise, hopefully, right? Introducing again Noco Loco. This is our agency for anything no code. This is our tiny team. It is a three-member team doing a lot of work, but we want to be specific about no code and stuff. Apart from me and Arjun, who you have already met, there's obviously Himanshu, who is behind the scenes killing it away on components and other things that we are doing with Framer. Beside this, we've been actually tinkering with Framer since 2015, ever since it launched with its first iteration of prototyping to now, continuously making websites and stuff. It's been so much fun for us. Apart from just tweaking on prototyping and stuff, we feel like no code is a natural extension of us getting into design and taking it forward in terms of responsibility. Apart from that, there is product design and education, which we love. So there are a lot of things we work upon. But here's where I want to hand it off over to Arjun, who led the Jack project specifically when it came to leading the design and the no coding parts. The context here is we worked with Jack, a Brooklyn-based agency, and they're a strategy studio. They had a lot on their mind. They had clients like Nike, Zapier, and Blue Apron, and they initially approached to us in 2019 2020 getting the original Jack website up. We didn't do the design at that point in Webflow, and we were able to finish it in Webflow. The line animation worked smoothly, very similar to how we were able to make with Framer. And then in 2023 we kind of started collaborating with Jack at a deeper level, and we said let's take a new stab at how Jack offers its offerings. So we kind of work with the business, work with the design, a lot of other things, product strategy and all. And that's where we did the design and then the build. So this is one of the times where the design and build were at its fastest because we did 5 plus 5 weeks, whereas in Webflow, just the build alone took 3 weeks. And this was an achievement. I would say kudos to Arjun. He actually pulled off the whole aspect of designing, setting the brand direction, and even actually building out and figuring out the animations and stuff. I'm going to be pulling Arjun in. He's just beside me, so he can kind of get started there. Okay, Arjun. Literally passing the computer on.
Thank you so much. All right. I hope you're all able to hear me okay, see me okay. Awesome. So as Madhuri has introduced, so the Jack website, there is a twofold work that has gone into it. So the first fold is where we were trying to launch a one-pager, which was introducing Jack as an agency. So that was done in Webflow. At that time, Framer wasn't there. It hasn't yet pivoted to its newest super cool offering. So, and then coming to this year, so Jack approached us again because the team has grown and the offerings have, matured as well. So for those reasons, they also wanted to work with us on strategically positioning Jack a certain way. So for those efforts, we had to choose something that is very fast because it was also challenging on the timeline. So I was also tinkering with Framer, as Madhuri has introduced. Right from 2015 onwards, I've been looking into the Framer and using Framer for different projects, from prototyping to the actual real world projects. And then we have the Jack. So for Jack, there were a couple of considerations that we have done from a build point of view. Broadly, I would like to categorize these considerations as something that has got to do with fluid brand expression, because not every tool allows for a full-fledged brand expression that is very seamless and that's very high fidelity and interactive. So for those reasons, one of the things that has checked off on our list is with Framer is the fluid brand expression. The second one is about, of course, the fast and easy, because when we are talking about no code, it's actually bridging the gap between what we are imagining and what we are putting it out. and that also has checked our boxes. And async and collaborativeness is something that we wanted, because being in different time zones, we wanted that to be more of a default and more of a given thing. So async and collaborative aspects for the tool to be addressed was very important for us to really get collaborating on the most important nuanced aspects. So for each of these things, I'd like to showcase a couple of them in a very quick way, and then we can get into the detail on the question and answer stuff. So starting with the fluid brand expression, there are a couple of aspects, like, for example, if you load the jackstrategy.com site, you will see the intro section has a very beautiful way where it makes a statement and says what Jack is all about in a very crisp manner. And for this to come through, we had to play with the animations and the sequencing of the animation and the timing and all. I don't know if you're able to see a screenshot here. While I'd like to walk you through the actual Framer project file, one of the things I wanted to point about is the sequencing part. So Framer has allowed us to sequence these animations very well. So you are able to play with the storytelling aspects and exactly when you want to introduce certain elements and certain text, visual or verbal. This has worked out very well for us. So that is one aspect. And the second aspect is about going on the same lines of food brand expression. It's the most talked about. It's the Jack guiding line. So the guiding line was a very important aspect of the very important element for the brand itself. So if you see the identity of Jack, the J actually trails into a line, and the line is supposed to act as an element that can take the story forward. And so here on the website, we have used the line to tell a story in a very sequential manner where it kind of follows the viewer and guides them to the most important aspects of the sections. And it's also a fun element and a way to engage the viewer. So that is something that was possible with a combination of positioning. This was a little tricky part because in Webflow, on the counterpart, there is a different way of achieving this. But with Framer, a very simple tinkering and a proof of concept kind of a thing has allowed us to understand exactly how we can trail these lines. So it's a combination of positioning and the scroll animations that were done. And as you can see that these are the properties that I have set up, where when a certain section scrolls into view, then that particular line is actually moving. So while it looks like the line is actually growing, the trick here is actually the line is moving from a minus x-axis or a minus y-axis depending on the context. So that's what's happening here. And the next aspect is the offerings themselves. And we wanted to highlight and limelight the offerings a certain way. So the visual metaphor of the hanging posters has been used here. And to bring it alive, there is a much more subtle animations that are needed, a very nuanced way of approaching. So for that, thanks to the loop animations for Framer, so that has been very helpful in terms of giving these posters life, and it makes it feel like, okay, they are actually, the entire site is feels alive. So that's a bit of components and loop animations. That's the combination that's been used here. And moving to the inner sections of the website, where we detail out on specific offerings, there are quite a few things that are happening. On the introductory section, you will see there is still that switcher which allows you to move between one offering and the other. And most importantly, it's actually the details of what kind of activities are involved in each of these offerings, because some of them are high on strategy, some of them are high on execution, and we wanted to show that in a very fun and engaging and interactive way. And big thanks to scroll animations and components, that's very much easy to make through. Once you nail the graphic, the rest is about setting up your variants and giving your scroll triggered animations. And then we have some things like this, which are still in the brand fluid brand expression, which is when you hover near the footer, there's a very fun and engaging way of looking at the other sections of the website. Metaphorically, we have just showcased the offerings and the team and the POV in terms of the simple shapes. So the shape associations and a very interactive way of looking at what are the sections that what is the pieces of information that one can find in those pages, even without navigating to them. That's a very engaging one. Again, components and variants has been of heavy use here. And then we have the most important element on the site, which is the paper stack navigation. This is also coming from a brand expression, but it's more about the how fast it is and easy it is to implement such things. So if you are able to set up one or two variants, then the rest of it is automated using the animations in the Framer. So that was very, very helpful. And just setting this up on desktop and mobile, both of those variants, switching them between them is very easy. And then we have, because the entire process uses two tools majorly. One is Figma and the other is Framer. So one of the most important things, as we all know, that we bring in our sites what has been imagined after a lot of iterations. How are we able to bring that to Framer? So using the site styles and the copy paste, using the Framer plugin, that has made it very, very easy to bring exactly how we have designed to set it up. There's a bit of a setup that is involved post, copying the things from the Figma into the Framer, but the process itself is very quick, although it is a little bit manual. And then under fast and easy, there's also the site performance. All of this is good, excellent animations, but if the performance takes a hit, then nobody's going to actually see those animations, and actually we will not be able to position the viewer in a place where we want to. So for those reasons, thanks to the native optimization that Framer does on all the images and graphics, and also the instant publishing, it does a lot of heavy lifting on the background to ensure that the site is very performant. And that is something that I loved about this particular tool, and how quickly it is able to bring the most interactive and high fidelity animations in a very, very fast performant way. And then we have some of the things related to the CMS aspects. We have the testimonials, the quotes, and the theme information, all of that under CMS collection, which allows many of the team members who are involved in the project to asynchronously work and on different aspects. While one person is actually working on the design, the other person can actually add in the information, and then both of them can be linked together later. So this way of asynchronous and collaborative way of doing that has actually helped the team move much faster. And then we have the fast iterations using the contextual comments. So one of the things that we have done here, particularly on this project, is we've not kept the comments on Figma alone. We have kept the comments onto the Framer when it comes to the higher fidelity, because that's where we will actually get to see things in a holistic way. How it works, how it is actually displaying, how it is performant, is it working on the device that the person is actually owning. So all of those things taken into considerations, it has given the team a lot more nuances to look into to bring a fully finished and polished website. So all because of the contextual comments, because people are able to see it in real time and comment there. So that's pretty much it on, I've just looked into the most important aspects, and because it's also a very short time. So if you have any questions, of course, you can drop it in the chat, or you can also reach us out on our Twitter handles. And there are a couple of resources and tools that I wanted to just bring it to the fore, where this have been very, very helpful in terms of executing this particular site in a highest fidelity. Of course, Framer is here. There's also the color box, which allows you to set the color systems for this particular site. And Pinterest.com, of course, visual mood boarding and metaphors. And nounproject.com for, again, visual metaphors and icon inspirations. And then Phosphor icons for very utilitarian way of using the icons, very functional way of directing, using it on actions and buttons and stuff like that. And yeah, if you want to know more about Framer, yeah, we are doing more efforts on this particular front. Himanshu, my colleague, has been working on Framer Flex, and we are also bringing something called Weekend Framer Workshop, where you will be able to get from 0 to 1 on understanding Framer and setting a very strong, solid foundation on exactly how to use Framer. This is just beyond the YouTube way of consuming the content, because there's a an experiential way of learning. So that's a bit what we are trying to bring. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Arjun. I'm so happy that you were sitting opposite and the computer could be passed to you, because that was incredibly valuable. Thank you. We do have a couple questions in the chat, and I think your colleague is actually in here answering a few as well. But I think one that has not been answered is, did you face any challenges when you brought this from Figma to Framer using the plugin, or how was that process for you?
Yeah. So I'd like to answer this in a very crisp way. We can get into the details, but one of the most important things we need to understand is, because how web works is fundamentally slightly different from how we are trying to design in Figma. So there's always this way of quickly prototyping and seeing whether whatever you have imagined on a free floating, infinite canvas, such as your Figma, is that imagination coming through in actuality? So that is something where, so before we actually finalize on any of the interactions and the sections, we always do a little bit of a testing. So that is something that has worked out. But from copy and paste, there's a little bit of work that we need to do in terms of setting the responsiveness and all of that. It's better handled on Framer than on Figma anyway. So yeah, other than that, it's been super fast.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We did have a question as well. Could you show us in more detail the scroll animation? I think that's particularly in relation to the guide feature that you had on that site. I know you had screenshots of that in this presentation, so would you mind sharing that presentation with us after this call? Is that okay?
Happy to. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Any last questions, folks? We got a few more minutes left here. If you do have one, don't feel like we're too tight on time. Please ask away if you have a question. I actually have a quick question while we're seeing if folks ask another. I know that Jack's strategy was built on Webflow beforehand. How did you convince them to move to Framer? How did that conversation go? Were they open to it?
Happy to share that. One of the most important conversations again. So one of the things that has given me the confidence to move into Framer is the way the Framer team has been actually shipping the features. I'd like to give a lot of credit to the Framer team, because without those features being polished and in place, it's not possible for me to even consider this tool. But between Webflow and Framer, the choice is very easy, because fundamentally Framer takes a very different approach to building a tool like this. If you are a designer already, it's a designer's tool, because a lot of things have been considered and borrowed from the best design tools that we already use, whether it be Spline, whether it be Figma. So there is a metaphorical way of looking at these tools and interfaces. So they've done a fantastic job in terms of making the interface very usable. So that makes it very, very fast. So faster than what, of course, Webflow is today. I hope they will be able to bring more improvements on that side as well. While Webflow is more powerful, it's very important to look into the context of this particular project. So what we really wanted was not more on the integration side, not more on the user setup side, but more on the expression side and the way of making it very interactive and engaging, and high on the storytelling parts. So Framer makes it naturally more easy to address these aspects specifically in a very fast-paced manner. So the power tools are there, but the power tools also carry a little bit of a complexity. What Framer nails is bringing the complexity down and making it very simple. And also the parity pricing and the comparative pricing of Framer also makes it very easy to make it very cost effective to continuously maintain and ship sites for many different team sizes. So that's also been a point to take into view.
Amazing. That's great. Thanks, Arjun, for the insights. I will count it down. I'm just going to give 5 seconds if anyone else has another question. And if not, we will call it for today. Alrighty. Just want to say a huge thank you again. Oh, we have one more question. Right on time. What is your typical workflow from Figma to Framer look like, Arjun?
Yeah, so I'd like to actually split these two things in, and because they also fit into nice buckets. It's very important to understand how designers work in terms of imagining the things and before even getting into the build process. So while Figma is very good at imagination, a lot of considerations have been done in terms of thinking what should be the story, how we should tell it, and what are the various options on how we can show it. So I don't know if I have time enough to showcase a very glimpse of a project website, but the slides are anyway shared. So probably there's a way for all of you to actually look into those things, where I will include a screenshot of that. But the idea is to have a lot of options and then freeze on a couple of them which are potentially very high in terms of delivering what we want to in terms of the story, in terms of making people take action on the site. And then bringing that onto Framer, there are two parts to it. One is the easier parts where you are able to copy a lot of the styling elements. The second part is actually where you are able to understand the fundamentals of the web and cater to that, which Framer makes it very easy in terms of the stacks, in terms of setting up the interactions using the variants and setting up the SEO, and all of that is brought together and in a very simple and intuitive way. So that makes it very easy. There is a bit of a style setting and all of that you have to do. I hope Framer team is also looking into those aspects. So yeah, the future is bright. That's much for sure.
Agree with you on that one. The future is absolutely bright over here on the Framer team. Thank you all so much for joining our very first show and tell. Just want to say thank you as well to our co-hosts Cédric, Madhuri, and Arjun for telling us your workflows, showing us how you work, showing us your outputs as well. It's been absolutely incredible to learn from folks who are such Framer pros. The recording to this will be posted into community once it's available. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you all online. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys.